Good afternoon. My name is Clinton Draper. I am a teacher and studio owner in North Vancouver. I have a studio called Distilled Pilates, and I'll be running through about an hour-long mat class today. I'd like to sort of theme the class by exploring the idea of the two-way stretch, which is a sort of an essential Pilates concept where we move two things away from each other to try and make a little more space. Really great if you've got discompression issues, if there is inflammation, which has as part of it a lack of space. If there's any compression in the body at all, we want to try and move the parts away from each other to make a little bit more room. So with that in the background, have a lay down on your back if you would. We'll set the feet up so that they're parallel, hip distance apart, and then you can just settle your body down onto the mat. Once you're there, allow the arms and legs to get heavy. Let your head, your ribs, and your pelvis get heavy. And then just take a couple deep breaths in here. Inhaling in through your nose. And you exhale out through an open mouth. And a couple more exactly like that. Big breath in. And out. And what you might find as you continue to breathe here is that the body starts to feel just a little bit heavier as you let go of some of the background tension that you might be holding on to in the musculature in your back, in your hips, and maybe in and around the throat and neck. Once you've relaxed as much of that tension as you can, I'd like you to bring your attention to your legs and to your thigh bones in particular. The thigh bones come up and insert up into the pelvic girdle. It's a ball and socket joint. I'd like you to deepen your sense of your core connection, just turning on the low abdominals a little bit, and then float the right leg off the mat by drawing the head of the femur, that thigh bone, into its socket, and place that leg right back down on the mat. Left leg lifts, and lower it back down. Continue alternating sides, maybe an exhale to lift a leg, and an inhale to slowly place it back down where it started. I'm going to say that these exercises should be fairly low ambition. Try not to use a ton of muscular tone, and just notice. Do you feel like the musculature in your neck is coming on to lift a leg? If so, try and quiet the jaw and the neck. You shouldn't need to turn on those upper quadrant muscle groups to pick the leg up. Continue alternating until you're back in a place where your right leg has been lifted. Keep it lifted, and for a second, feel the subtle feeling of the thigh bone dropping down into the socket. Now with that leg still in the air, notice where your low back and pelvic girdle are. As long as they feel tension-free, that's great. Just keep them in that position as you reach a leg away, and then bring that right leg back in towards you. Now as you stretch the leg away, lower is harder, but try not to go so low that the weight of the leg pulls your low back off the mat any higher than it started. So you want to keep the long neutral curves in your low back. Take two more of those reaches on the right. Folding deeply at the hip to bring the leg in, and one last one. Bring it back and lower that leg all the way down. Using an exhale, the other leg floats up. Give it just a breath to drop the weight of the thigh bone down into its socket, and then stretch the leg away from you and come back in. Even as that leg stretches, there could still be a feeling of drawing the head of the femur in towards its socket. So there's a moment where we can already start to explore that two-way stretch idea. The leg is stretching away from you, there's energy reaching out through the tips of the toes, but you are still plugging the leg into the socket. Bring the leg back in, hold it there. Now this next part requires more abdominal support. So further flatten your low belly, and without overly engaging the musculature in your back, float the right leg up to join the left. With both legs now lifted, stretch one leg away from you, and then bring it back in, and then the other leg. As you continue to alternate sides, feel the thigh bone associated with the reaching leg plugging into the socket, almost like it plugs up into your low belly and hooks into that powerhouse. We'll do one more stretch each side, right and left. Finish by bringing those two legs back into that double tabletop position, hold them there. Float the arms up to the ceiling. A second to draw the arm bones into their sockets so everything really feels really quite plugged in. As the right leg reaches, send your left arm over your head, and then breathe those limbs back in. Other side, right arm, left leg, and breathe it back. As you find this feeling of stretch, hopefully your spinal curves are staying constant, and you keep with the breath. These are not classical exercises, so there's a couple different options breath-wise. You can just breathe through it. I like an exhale as the limbs reach away from my center, but do what feels natural to you. One more each side, or enough that you're even. And then we'll bring them all the way back in. Grab your shins, give them a quick squeeze in towards your chest, and then slide your hands around the back of those bent knees, swing yourself up, and I'd like you to switch around so that you're in a 4-point kneel. Hands are under shoulders, knees are under hips. And find a position here where it feels like those limbs are plugged in, just like they were a moment ago. You can have a little micro bend in your elbows, nice long stable curves in the spine. Take the breath in, and then as you exhale, lift your low abs up more actively than you think you need to. From there, inhale, right arm and left leg away. Bring it all the way back. And other side. So we've got the two-way stretch of the limbs, one arm and opposite leg, reaching away from your center and away from each other. You've also got the two-way stretch of the head and the tail. So the crown of your head elongating forward like you were trying to headbutt the far side of the room you're in, and the tailbone reaching back. Take one more each side, reach, and reach. Bringing the limbs back in, place them back down in their starting positions, and then still with a long two-way stretch through the spinal column, just extend the right arm out to the side so that the fingertips are just lightly on the mat. From there, open your body up, taking the right arm up towards the ceiling and taking your eye line towards it, and then bring it back down so fingertips touch the floor, eye line down to between where the thumbs would have been. Bring your arm up, rotate the upper back, and truck it down. We'll do 3 more there. As you're taking this gentle first rotation, still feel the two-way stretch through the spine. Crown of head drilling or sort of augering forward, and tailbone reaching back. When you've finished your final one, should be about 5, bring that right arm back down, place it on the mat under the right shoulder, and reach the left fingertips out. When you're ready to twist, open up to the left and push the floor away with your right arm a little bit, and come back. Twist, and come back. Often when I see people go into rotation, there's a little bit of a downward sense to it, like they were grinding the vertebra together. Here I'd like you to play with the opposite idea. You're moving the vertebra, segments of the spine, away from each other as you twist. One last one. And bring that all the way back down. Plant the hands, flex the feet so you can put a little bit of weight in the toes. Now, bring your attention back to the thigh bones. Feel the 2-directional stretch in the spine. And then just hinge at the hips to reach your bum back towards your heels a little, and then track it forward. Slight reaching back, and come forward. Just one more there. And bring it back. So it's a hip hinge. You're isolating the movement right in the hip joint. Nothing else should be disturbed. Option number 1, do that again. Option number 2, stand into the toes a little bit more actively. Lift your knees an inch off the mat. With the knees hovering, drift your bum back slightly. And bring it forward. You'll feel the quads get loaded up with the work of this. Keep the abs lifted up like crazy though. So it's more about those abdominals than it is about the legs. Hinge back, spine stretching in 2 directions. Last 2. As you move your bum back, you sort of stretch the crown of the head forward in opposition. And finishing that last one, lower your knees lightly down. Excellent. So, next piece. You can either do this with the knees on or off. Off is a little bit more challenging. That's the one I'll be demonstrating. Stand into the feet, lift your knees if you're going to, and then stabilize the left shoulder blade. That left hand is going to be the one that supports you. I'd like you to bring your right hand up towards your right shoulder, extend the right arm out to the side and into the air. Bring it back, place it down on the mat. Stabilize the right shoulder, lift the left hand up, reach it out to the side, and bring it all the way back. Continue alternating. You can move slowly or quickly. Just make sure you're minimizing the sway. There will be a little weight shift, that's okay, but I'd like you to feel like you've got weight still on both feet and that you're not allowing your hips to sway too much side to side. The lower the knees are, the better, well, the harder I should say, and we'll do just one more each side. Finishing a last one to the left. Once you are done with those, lower your knees lightly down. Take a breath, reset your position. If you're still okay here on the wrists, stay there. If you're feeling like it's a bit much, you can come down to the forearms as well, or maybe make fists. Same options as before. Knees on, easy choice. Knees off, harder choice. Lift your low abs regardless of your choice. If you're lifting your knees, do so now. From this place, kick your right leg back, and then bring it back in. Place the foot down, but not the knee unless you are resting the knee. Other leg extends out. And come back in. Feel the long neutral curves of the spine, hopefully undisturbed by the reach of a leg. As you continue to alternate those kickbacks, notice what's happening in your low back. If those muscles are coming on, you might be lifting your leg just a little too high. Doesn't need to come any higher than parallel to the floor. One last one, should be a 1 on the left. Bring it back in, lower your knees all the way down. From there, we'll walk the hands forward, drop your bum down towards your heels for a moment, and just take a breath in a shell stretch. Having taken that breath, start to roll yourself all the way back up. And from here, we'll flip around so you're once again down on your back. This time, legs are stretched and straight, and I'd like you to bring the arms up towards the ceiling. Once they are there, plug those upper arms in towards the sockets, and then take the arms over your head. From this position, float arms up towards the ceiling, nod your chin, and curl your upper body up. Keep it right there in the hundreds position. Drag your knees in towards your chest. Once they're in fairly close, extend the legs up to the ceiling. Lower one leg down, so you're in kind of a scissors position. Start to pump into your hundreds. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, change legs. It is in, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, change legs. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, and change. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, and change. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, and change. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, change, and out, 2, 3, 4, change. Is in, 2, 3, 4, change, and out, 2, 3, 4, change. 30 more, 2, 3, 4, change, and out, 2, 3, 4, changes in, 2, 3, 4, change, and out, 2, 3, 4, change. Last 10, 2, 3, 4, change, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend the knees in, grab hold of them, and squeeze yourself into a small ball for a moment. Lowering legs down, slide those legs out to straight, flex your feet, and let's walk them so that they're about hip distance apart. Once they're there, reach the arms over your head like you did for the prep for hundreds, and let that be a moment to feel the two-way stretch. Head and fingertips reaching upwards, tailbone and heels reaching down. From there, float the arms up, keeping them plugged into their sockets. Nod the chin and curl up as you bend up and forward. 3 gentle reaching pulses. 1, 2, 3, and then soften down. And I want you to reach your feet away from you. Reach your shins away from you. Reach your thighs away from you. Pull your abs back away from the reach of the legs and then come down. Float those arms back up. Nod the chin. Soften in the chest. Curl forward. Take those 3 pulses. 1, 2, 3. Now, the thing that will help you reach those legs is a squeeze in the glutes on the descent. Really, really engage through them and then come down. So that sort of gives your lower body a job, that reaching away thing. As you work, I'd like the opposite energy in your upper body. You've got your 3 pulses, you start to roll down, you're reaching the legs as before. Pull your guts, your viscera back. Pull your rib cage away from your pelvis. Lengthen your head away from the ribs, and then reach the arms up nice and long. So it feels like your upper and lower halves are always trying to move away from each other. Pull 1, 2, 3, and then stretch down. If you know you've got a tight or a grumpy spot in your back, especially focus on opening it up in 2 directions. Last one here. Take those curls forward, pulse 1, 2, 3, and then pull the center of the body back. Now to your roll up, let's add rotation. Float arms up as before. All the other ideas apply. Chest softens, you curl up. As you come up, open your left arm out, sit all the way up to tall, get really, really lifted, and then keep the upward lift as you bring that left arm back and start to roll all the way down. As I said earlier, sometimes in rotation I see clients with a bit of a downward energy or compressive sense in their movement. Here, as you come to that moment, we'll open the right arm this time, get as tall and as lifted as you can. Stay tall and lifted, so don't start to lose that as you roll down. Just one more each side should be great. Arms come up, chest softens. You roll up, open the left arm up, extend high up to the crown of the head. There's one direction of your 2-way stretch. Tail is reaching down, and then come all the way back. And release. Last one. As you rotate, open right, get tall, bring it back, and then lower all the way down. This time, don't take those arms overhead. Instead, press them down in towards the mat. Now, you may have shifted off your mat. If you have, just adjust yourself back so that you are once again fully on and your head is supported. From this space, bend the right knee into the tabletop position we explored before. Shoulders are nice and open, arms are anchored into the mat. Draw a circle with that right lifted thigh bone. It's about the circumference of the diameter of a salad plate. Circling the direction of your choice for just 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 last circle. You can reverse. Here you'll be moving fairly quickly because the circles aren't that big, so just breathe through it. Big, deep, full breaths into the back of the body. 4 and 5. Finish with that leg back in the tabletop position and then extend it up towards straight. Now, if a straight leg isn't available yet, that's okay, but aim for it and then turn the leg out in the socket. For the next round of circles, don't move your pelvic girdle. Take that lifted right leg as far to the left as you can without letting your right bum come off the mat at all. Circle it down towards the other foot, open slightly out to the right and come up. Circle, down and around. And at least in my body, these aren't very good circles. They're more of an oval shape in that you're able to go so low down towards that left foot, but only a small range when you're moving towards the sides. Finish one last one, absolutely stable and still in the pelvis at this stage, and then reverse that. Open right, down, round, crossover, and come up. Let the uppermost part of the thigh bone, right where the thigh bone plugs into the socket in your pelvis, be what crosses over your midline. And that should give you a little tingle of work in the inner thigh. One last one, finish with that leg high. So we had a small circle, a medium circle, now this is your big circle. Cross that leg as far as you can to the left. You'll feel your right bum come off the mat. Take this first one slow, seeing how far you can go without letting your right shoulder float off the mat. Circle the leg down, around, up in a momentary pause. Do that again, to the left. Circle it down, look for that place where you've still got an anchored right shoulder blade. Circle down, round, and up. Here's 3. And around. 4, still using the upper inner thigh to take the leg across the body. And last one, 5. and down, around. Finish with that leg high, hold there, reverse, out, right, down and around. Now probably you're feeling some engagement right up in the crease of the hip right now. That's okay, we've done a lot of these. Keep pulling the leg into the socket. Do 2 more, allowing that right bum to thoughtfully come off the mat. One last one. Bring it back up once it is all the way up there. Bend that knee and give it a squeeze. That should help to relax the front of that hip. Now, keeping that right leg as the leg that we're focusing on, I'd like you to roll onto your left side. Set yourself up roughly on the middle of the mat. Create a support for your head and neck by either using the hand with the bent elbow or by laying yourself all the way down. Entirely up to you as to what you do there. Take the 2 feet a little bit in front of you. So if you bend at the neck a little bit and look down the length of the body, you should be able to see that you're ever so slightly piked. I like flexed position with the feet and a little bit of weight into the baby toe side of my left foot, but you do what feels good to you there. Pick that right leg up again, same one we were using before. Point the foot. Take the leg forward, trying to find that same inner thigh, up, and then allow the leg to slightly inwardly rotate as it goes to the back, and then as soon as you can, turn it out to bring it forward. Turned out to come up just to the Pilates V, slight inward rotation, down and around. And you don't need to make too much of that inward and outward rotation piece. It's more just giving it permission to happen, so that the thigh bone, as it plugs in towards the socket, can move a little better and smoother. I think this is 4. And one last one here for 5. Finish with the 2 legs next to each other and reverse. Go back. Up. Turn the leg out as it comes forward. As it goes back, it will internally rotate a little bit. Rotate it in its socket to come around. So we've got a circle, but then you've got a spiral of the leg inside the circle. Last 2, 4, pelvis fairly stable, still the feeling of 2-way stretch through the ends of the spine. Come around and rest. Good. Now still with the right leg. Come onto your stomach, please. Hands come underneath your forehead to create a little pillow of support. Give yourself a little wiggle to really settle and get weighted down into the mat. And then I'd like you to lengthen your low back, kind of extending that curve by reaching the tail down to the heels. That is done muscularly by pulling up the abs in the front and hopefully without a ton of squeezing into your glutes yet. Once you've got that slightly longer low back curve in play, squeeze just your right bum. Then engage your right hamstring, which will lift your right knee off, then barely lift your right leg. Lower it all the way back down. Do that again. Right bum, right hamstring, right kneecap comes off, right leg barely lifts. One last one. In that sequence, abs, glute, hamstring, then leg picks up. Try not to skip over that glute engagement. If it doesn't fire in the right order, you might end up using your low back muscles. From there, we put it together. Do both bums, both hamstrings, and then lift both legs. And then come all the way back down. Both bums, both hamstrings, both legs barely lifting. And release. Last one. Bums, hamstrings, both legs pick up. Now we've done lots of circles. I'd like you to draw a little tiny circle, one with each leg. You choose the direction, just 5. Reaching 4. 3. See if you can do this without flexing into your upper back or engaging into those low back muscles too much. And then reverse your small circles. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Lower those legs all the way down. Relax everything you own. And then we're going to take that whole entire sequence on the left. So you can flip back onto your back. Right leg now, reaching long. It might feel a little bit longer or different in that hip than it does in the left, but we will even everything out. Bend the left knee in towards your chest. Find your tabletop position. Hands are anchored into the mat by your sides. Start to circle that left thigh bone. Getting it slightly across your midline, beginning that process of warming up the inner thigh group. 3. Circle 4. And 5. Reversing the small ones. Size is a little bit individual depending on how much ease you've got in your hips and nature of your flexibility, but try not to let your pelvis move at this stage. 4. And should be a last one on the 5. Take that left leg, extend it as close towards straight as it can go, slightly turn it out in the socket. Cross to the right without letting the left bum come off the mat. Circle down, around, and up. So using the edges of the mat you're laying on are a really, really good way of kind of landmarking how big you want your circle to be. 4. And one last one, 5. Finish with the leg high, feel it for a moment, plugged into its socket, and around. I have a muscle called your psoas, big, deep, powerful muscle. It's hard to feel and a little bit hard to teach to. One of its jobs is to help to pull that thigh bone in towards the socket. So if you feel that plugged in feeling, you should both minimize any clunking in the hip, but also hopefully encourage the psoas to work a little bit more. Last one, finishing with a high left leg. Now we take the circle bigger, cross it as far to the right as you can, your left bum will come off. Circle it down, around, and up. Now you're creating a little counter spiral. So as the weight of the leg pulls the left bum off, I'm trying to slightly twist my ribs and left shoulder down to the mat to keep them grounded. Last circle here. Finish with a high leg and reverse. Inhale left, down, round, and up. Now when we did the side-lying circles earlier, I was cueing an inward and outward rotation. Usually in this variation we're doing all outwardly rotated, but you might find it feels better for you if you allow a little inward or outward spin. Do what feels good for your hip. That should have been your last one. Bend the knee in, give it a squeeze to release any accumulated tension. And then you can swing yourself up and make your way onto your right-hand side. Once you're there, same support system you decided to employ for your upper body on the first side, feet are slightly in front of you. Create that reach long through your top left leg, pointed foot here, slightly turned out upper thigh, leg comes forward, up. Find that slight inward rotation and then outwardly rotate to come around. Now as you continue to work here, because we've already discussed where the leg should be by and large, focus on that top left hip. Regardless of where your leg is in the circling sequence, always feel like you're reaching that left side of your pelvis down. One last one. And then reverse. Outwardly rotating. If you get that place where you maybe feel it's a little bit clunky in there, try and explore that inward-outward rotation or the psoas cue, pulling the leg into the socket. And one last one. And you glue the legs together for a moment. Nice. Rolling onto your stomachs. Same setup. Find that initial lengthening of your low back without overly gripping into your glutes. That means your abs should be lifted up and sort of engaged. Upper body is as relaxed as possible. Squeeze your left bum. Engage your left hamstring to lift your left knee. And then barely lift that left leg up. And lower it all the way down. 2 more like that. Left bum, hamstring, kneecap. Reach the leg away from you to pick it up. And come down. Try not to shift weight onto one half of your pelvis. Stay evenly weighted across your 2 hip bones in the front. Now if that went well, put them together. Both bumps, both hamstrings, both legs barely lifting. And come down. I'd like you to feel this, not as a feel the burn, but as an engagement in your glutes and your hamstrings, not as a lot of tone up into those low back extensor muscles. That's why we're keeping the legs low. On your next one, lift and stay. We did little circles before. This time, I'd like tiny grasshopper beats. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. As you're reaching the legs away from you, pull your abs up like you're zippering up a really, really, really tight zipper on a pair of pants. There's an expression of your 2-way stretch. Now as you continue to beat those legs in and out, they don't need to come into touch, and they should only be opening about as wide as your mat. Hopefully a little bit of feeling engagement in the hamstrings themselves. Let's go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you can lower all the way down and rest from there. Let's place the hands under the shoulders. Just press your bum back over your heels. Very, very, very brief shell stretch. And then you can shift forward. We're going to come around and onto the backs once again. Once you are down there, just like when we began, I'd like you to settle your feet onto the mat roughly in line with your hips, and then bring your hands, interlace them, and catch the back of your skull. Once you're there, glide the shoulder blades slightly down the back. Now, there's been a lot of discussion of reaching away today with the lower half of the body. I want you to feel that same reaching away from your center, but with the upper body. So, without yet lifting your head, use your own hands to slightly traction your skull up and away from your pelvis. Then nod your chin slightly to the chest, soften your sternum, and curl up as high as the bottom tip of your shoulder blades. And then slowly lower back down. So you go backward first, even though that's very, very subtle, and then you curl up and forward. And then come down. It's almost like the undertow of a wave. It pulls back, your head and then your ribs pull away from your center, and then you curl up. Another motivating kind of idea here is that if you can really pull that head and rib cage away from your pelvis, you're going to narrow your waistlines out quite a bit more. If you get kind of squishy and compressive, or in some gym environments they call them crunchies, I see people come up, shorten their midsections, and everything kind of mounds and pops upwards in the low belly, that kind of pooching out aesthetic. Not ideal. So instead, pull back, flatten, and hollow out your center instead of allowing that pooching pattern. Now on your next one, curl up, stay there. Try and have your legs be as heavy as you can, and then just a little pulse up, up, up. Now on these, if you glance down to your low belly, you may see that slight kind of mounding upward. Scoop your guts back and away. Find that zippering up of the low belly like you had when you were on your stomach from a moment ago. And we'll just do 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and one last one lower all the way down. Now, I did not specify where I wanted your back in particular on those ones. You were just allowed to find your own rhythm as long as it felt okay to you. I'm good with it. Let's just quickly distinguish two different positions. So if you've got a neutral spine, that should mean like you've got a feeling of lightness or maybe some space under the low back. It's a little bit different for everybody. We have a curled or an imprinted spine. When you consciously lengthen the tailbone towards your heels, curl it a little between the legs, and then flatten your low back into the mat. And then you can release out of that curled state back to your neutral. Just do that 2 more times. Lengthen the base of the spine towards your heels, and then curl it up and come down. You're not curling so high you lift your bum off. You're just lengthening or flexing the lumbar vertebra down into the mat slightly. And then maybe releasing that idea and back to neutral. So, having distinguished between, hopefully, your neutral, which may have a little space under, and that curled position where you've reached the tailbone away, we'll just make some conscious choices as to when we're in each of those shapes. Hands are once again behind the head. Spine is currently in neutral. 5 is the magic number. Do 5 plain curls up in neutral. 1, and slowly lower down. You're still lengthening backwards before coming up for 2, and lower down. Here's 3, and down. Try not to disturb your neutral. Keep that little bit of breath of lightness or space under your low back, and one last one. And lower. Now before you come up again, find the curl. Reach the tail away from you and towards your heels, and then you reach that crown of the head up and away from the pelvis to curl up. So you maintain the curl, the flatness of the low back to the mat. Come up again for 2. Take the 2 end points of the spine are reaching away from each other. 2 more there is 4. And the last one is 5. Come up, stay up. Upper body stays lifted, low back stays gently curled to the mat. Bring one knee in towards your chest. Without losing that flexion of the lumbar into the mat, bring your other leg up to join the first leg. Glue those legs together. From here, bring your upper body up a little higher, and then tap both toes to the mat on an exhale.
Inhale, bring them back in towards you. You keep the curl, so your low back is gently anchored into the mat by virtue of that reach away and up. 2 more. And one last one. Bring the knees back in. Now, as you tap your toes on the next one, release that low back to neutral. And then the knees come in, the toes lift off the mat, flex your low back into the mat. Release thoughtfully to neutral. This will probably be too subtle to see on the video, but I want you to find that curling action as being what lifts your legs up. 3 more. Exhale. And lower it. And up. And lower it. And one last one. And you're back to where you started with the knees lifted and the low back flattened. Can you put that together? Lower your head down, tap your toes, release your low back to neutral but not past it, and then use the action of flexing your low back into the mat to bring the nose and the knees together. Release away on the inhale, exhale, curl up. Now see if you can bring back your two-way stretch idea. You're stretching the upper body away from your center, and that tail reaches towards the bottom end of your mat, and then up. One last one. Curl up. Stay. Now, having found all of that, maintain that subtle curl in your low back. Pick one of your legs and stretch it away from you. Now, without moving where your pelvis and low back are, just twist your upper body up and towards the knee that's in towards you. From there, change legs and sides. Change, change, change. Fairly slow and steady. There's even weight across the back halves of your pelvis. As you reach the one leg away, feel that thigh bone plugging into its socket, all the stuff we practiced earlier, and then that twisting action. Reach the one elbow back and then the other. Try and pull your rib cage further away from the pelvis to further narrow your waist. 4, 3, 2, and last one. Hold on that side, it doesn't matter which. 8 little pulses on the diagonal. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Change legs and sides, and you pulse 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and that should feel like enough. You can hug your knees in and rest. Give those knees a nice big squeeze, and then lower the legs all the way down. Having found that release and hopefully engaged through the abdominals, roll onto your sides so that you are prepped for some more sideline leg work. So those final positions, I presented them as 2 things, either that sort of neutral position or that slightly curled position. There's a million in-betweens, and it's going to be physically manifest a little bit different in everybody's body. Find a position in the spine that lets you feel connected and lets you feel pain-free. And if you're there, then that's the right place to be working from, and then you can explore other ideas if you want. Once you're down on your side, find an extended fetal position here. So you're not too scrunched up or rounded in the spine, but you have those long neutral curves. Once you are there, gently press your 2 feet together, just to create a connection. And then your top knee, in this case it's going to be my right knee, is going to lift up and come down. And 2, 3, 4, we'll do 10 of most things here. As you lift and lower, you can just breathe deeply through this one. I am a little bit lifted under my bottom waistline to stay supported. And last one, 10. Now that same action, let the foot separate from its neighbor. So the whole right leg lifts up and down. While I work, I'm still plugging that leg bone into the socket, and maybe even slightly feel like I'm sticking my bum out to make sure I haven't tucked under and that I am actually accessing my glutes and not just living in the outside of my hip. 2 more. And one last one. Lift and stay lifted. Now you keep that knee where it is, but just reconnect your foot or toes. I'd like you to crease at the right hip joint to drift that knee up a little bit and bring it down. So the knee joint moves in space, but it doesn't bend any more or less than it currently is. The movement comes from that hip dissociation, that hip hinge action, which we practiced earlier. 2 more of those. And finishing a last one. Let's end toe to toe, still with the right thigh bone slightly turned out. Freeze the thigh bone in place
and then reach the leg out to straight. I'd like a little tiny circle, just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, reverse other direction, 2, 3, 4, 5. Flex your foot, bring the leg forward till it's bent at about 90 degrees at your hip. Really feel that leg plug back into the socket. Tap the floor, lift it up to hip height. 10, 9, 8, 7. We've seen this cross the midline range before. 4, 3, 2, 1. Let the foot come to the floor. Bend the knee up so you can actually rest the knee and shin so that they're parallel to that long edge of the mat. And then stretch your bottom left leg all the way out. I like a flexed foot on that bottom leg, but you do whatever you'd like. I'd like you to lift that bottom leg up as high as you can, cross your midline, and then tap the floor. Inner thigh. 3, 4, 5. Strong muscular leg. 7, 8. Last 2 lifts. 9 and 10 stays high. Little pulses. 20, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, reach 1, and then you can lower that leg all the way down. Take that right leg, the one that was bent up in front of you, stretch it out to straight if it will go. Extend your left arm forward, and then your right arm forward. From this position, take the right arm up in a nice big twist where you rotate, following the right hand with your eye line. And just take a breath or 2 there. And then bring the right arm slowly all the way back. Bend the limbs in, and you can press yourself up, and we'll just swing around to the other side right away. Once you're there, find that same sort of extended fetal position. Support for the head in a way that suits you. Find stable hips, slightly stick that bum out, and then today, bring your hands, your left hand, to your low front ribs. Keep them there just to remind you not to spring forward with the rib cage, but to keep it a little bit engaged, so that the upper 2 of your 6-pack is active there. Once that's in play, start to turn that top knee out slightly and resist it down. 2, 3. It's just maybe a nice feedback loop to have the hands on the low ribs to remind you not to spring them forward. The same time as they are staying a little bit kind of integrated in the front, you can think of filling up the corresponding area in your back with breath, so you're breathing into the back ribs. Same leg, but let the foot separate and press down. You're halfway there on these. 5 more. 5, 4, 3, 2, and the last one will stay up. Hinging at that left hip, drift the thigh up a little and tap down. And up and tap. If you want, maybe shift your left hand from the ribs, because we know that they're perfect now, and bring it to just the underneath part of your left bum, your underbum. Try and push the leg down using those muscles that would be right underneath that bum cheek. They're fairly deep muscles, but engage underneath there to help to press the leg down. And the last one, 10, hold it there. Now those muscles could stay engaged. You can keep your hand there if you want. Extend the lower portion of that leg, turn it out a little, 5 little circles. 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you can reverse 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Flex your foot, bring the leg forward from this position. Maybe release that hand from the underbum, place it on the mat, and gently push in to create a little more lift for your upper body. Tap the floor with the left foot, lift up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Try to pull the left side of your pelvis a little bit back as the foot reaches towards the floor. And last one's 10, lift and stay. Once you've got that established, bend the knee in, place that foot down on the mat, and then stretch your bottom right leg all the way out. Once you've got it extended, and again, I like that flexed foot, pick it up nice and high and down. You want to get the lift from the very highest part of the inner thigh, right up where the leg inserts up into the groin. take 2 more full range, nice and slow. And then on your last one, lift and stay, 20 little pulses. 20, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Higher if you can. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you lower it all the way down and rest. Top left leg stretches forward. Bottom right arm stretches forward. Once your head is heavy on the mat, and try and let it relax there so there's no neck tension, reach your left arm forward, take that arm up, spiral, and twist. Having had a breath or two there, pull your low abdominals in, bring the left arm up, spiral all the way back. We'll adjust directly onto your stomach. Using that lengthened low back and the glute and hamstring complex we were working with before, I'd like to come into swimming. Options, you can do the bottom half only, or you can do the bottom and add the upper body portion, which I'll cue you to. Find length in the lumbar, squeeze the bums, find your hamstrings, lift your kneecaps off, barely lift your legs. Then, if you wish, extend your upper back up, feeling it stretching forward. Reach your arms forward, your legs back, and with all that two-way stretch conversation going on, start to swim. Now, if you're just doing the lower half, just work through those leg kicks. If you've got both going, feel your ribs and head moving forward, your pelvis and tailbone reaching down, and pull your abs up off the mat if possible. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hold there and reach in 2 directions, and then lower all the way down. From here, a momentary press of your bum back over your heels, truly just a second though. And then come onto your stomach with your hands underneath your shoulders. From here, claw the fabric of the mat, reach forward through the crown of the head. It's almost like you're a turtle coming out of its shell. You extend your neck. And then start to pull the collarbones forward. Let them spin you up. Pull the ribs forward, and then come all the way up. Maybe to straight arms, maybe not. Now, as you come down, I want you to pull everything you had lifted forward to lengthen it down to the mat. Like you could put your nose on the mat further away from your pelvis than it started. Do that again. Reach forward through the crown of the head, lengthen your neck. Lengthen those upper 2 ribs forward, then the collarbones, then the rest of the ribs come forward. And then stretch down and pull with your hands. You might even slide a millimeter along the mat. Do 1 more of those. Big inhale to come up. That 2-way stretch stuff, really crucial here. And then as you're coming down, pull everything out of your low back. That's one of the most compressed parts of all of us. So you're opening that up. And once you come all the way down, you can rest from there. We're going to flip directly onto your back from where you were. Once you're down there, stretch your legs all the way up to straight. Take the arms up and stretch them over your head. You've seen this position. Going to come up into some teasers, floating your arms up, softening in the chest, peeking down the low belly, and then come all the way up. Now, if you can, feel your limbs reaching up. And then keep a sense of upward lift in through your ribs and your head, even as you lower them all the way down. 2 more. Keep reaching long, slowly start to descend, and then reach over. 1 last one, plank. Leg bones and arm bones plugging into sockets, 2-way stretch in play as you descend. Now we're going to add some rotation like we did before when we were doing the roll-ups. As you teaser up, come pretty much all the way up and then just open your right arm out. Bring that arm back and then slowly lower all the way down. Bring the arms up again, soften in the chest, curl up, lift up. Open your left arm out. I'm still reaching through my right arm and I'm trying to pick myself up out of the low back and reach the arms overhead. We'll do that once more each side. Open the right arm out. Keep your chest lifted, slowly melt back down. And last one.
Left arm opens. Get tall, get lifted. Try not to sit up on those sits bones though. You're always just about to fall off them. And then you lower all the way back down and reach the arms over. Relax your legs, doing whatever you need to do with them. And just stretch arms and legs in opposite directions. More casual expression of the two-way stretch idea. And then as final stretches today, cross your right ankle over your left knee. Grab for that left shin or whatever else is available to you. Just pull in for a little stretch. We call this version number 1 of this. And then right away you can uncross, take that on the other side. And then just swing yourself all the way up. I'd honestly meant class to be all about the two-way stretch, but I kind of got distracted by circumduction of the hip. We did a lot of hip circles of one kind or another. So just to stretch out some of that stuff, take a pigeon, right leg forward. If you don't like the pigeon, go back to what we just did, that figure 4 stretch or another version of that, and just let this kind of free up any tension that might have sort of crept into those circles. Once it feels like the right leg has released a little, you can just step to change. When the quadricep group becomes dominant, or if there's a lot of tightness in the hip from sitting and from various other things, it can pull the head of the femur into an anterior glide pattern, which is a non-optimal patterning or placement for the bones. And so that psoas cueing, pulling the leg bone into the socket, is a really, really useful one and can apply for just about anything that involves movement at the hip. So you can maybe have it in the background when you are engaged in any other physical pursuits too. And it's subtle, it's not a huge thing, but it should help to sit or seat the head of the bone better in the socket. Hopefully all that felt good. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe, wash your hands, all that stuff.